this on? Yes. All right, rise of the independent creators. I'm excited to meet a couple of you guys today, and I know Violetta and Jen pretty well from Twitter. It's really interesting. I think we don't understand enough about how important creators are to actually building not only community but building out technology that we use every day. I don't think there's any mistake or I don't think there's any doubt that the reason ordinals were so successful was because in 21 we had that huge boom in NFTs. Like Bitcoin was really ready for it. If we think about what happened with Counterparty back in 2017 and 18, it died because NFTs weren't ready. The globe wasn't ready for NFTs. And I think understanding that and putting some perspective on why ordinals kind of really kicked off is important. So if we want to start at the end and just introduce ourselves real quick and we'll get into it.
For sure. I'm Will Foxley. I'm the co-founder of Blockspace Media. I just want to give a shout out to Aaron and Lauren for putting this conference together. This is awesome.
And I'm Kevin Foxe. I tell stories for a living, and sometimes they come true. And I want to thank Aaron as well for keeping the ephemeral magic of the world into this technology and keeping us all, trying to be inspired and moved. So, yeah.
One, two, test. My name is Violetta Zironi. I am an independent singer-songwriter, musician for the past decade. And I'm excited to have been building on Bitcoin and Ethereum for the past almost 3 years. And also thank you, Aaron, for having us.
My name is Jen. I do a little bit of everything, a lot of education, throwing Ord House, come from a background of working with artists. So yeah, decentralizing.
Well, I think let's start with Jen, because I think what you've done is really, really interesting. As an artist, doing some really interesting stuff a few years ago, but you've translated that into like this other career, right? Where you're working in ordinals and in blockchain. As an artist, you are creative, obviously, but you started maybe in a different way. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I think in 2020, I was working in the music industry, one that was completely shut down. So I had the value time, and I was looking for censorship solutions for my art, got introduced to NFTs, and honestly, everything they told us about NFTs was kind of a lie, right? I'm like, I need to understand all of this because you guys are saying a lot of things that I don't think are true, but my lawyer doesn't know what a smart contract is. And I feel like ordinals are the actual promise of NFTs, right? You have the asset on a SAT. It will be on chain. It's not this other link. And so, yeah, once I learned about ordinals, and shout out Billy Rusty, he's in here. He's one of my OG NFT friends. He sent me everything about ordinals. I was like, okay, I need to understand all of this because this feels real.
Yeah. And for people who are artists who are thinking about creating with NFTs or ordinals, I think Violetta is an amazing example, because small artists who are able to create a living and a life with, a group of fans that's not Taylor Swift level, but yet connects with people, I think is fantastic. And she put out a tweet. I was asking her before we got up here on stage. She's done like over 900 ETH in sales, with her collection.
Why are we measuring in ETH?
Yeah, right?
Why are we measuring in ETH? Can we get the Bitcoin number?
Simply, I think what it points out is that, you don't have to have 1 million fans to make a living. And I think that's critical. Can you tell us a little bit about like building that community, what it's been like for you?
Yeah, most definitely. Similarly to Jen, I also found myself in a weird position during the pandemic because my industry shut down. I was happy because I did not want to be part of that industry, which I think is not made to support creators, right? So I'm excited to hear from you about that as well. And so I realized it just did not make sense that we all need to have millions and millions of fans around the world to even be able to make a bare living, right? To even be able to pay your rent. It just never made sense in my mind. And so I decided to try and connect very closely to people. And I appreciated what Trevor said earlier, on his panel about really connecting one-on-one with people that appreciate what you do. and be on a mission together, on a journey together to achieve something. So that's kind of the approach that I took. And now it's my full-time job for the past 3 years, and I haven't even used Spotify at all in the past 3 years. So yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. You know, and kind of moving from Spotify, I want to talk for 1 second about Blair Witch. I'm sure you never like talking about Blair Witch anymore. Oh, you do like that. All right.
I like talking about it
All
because it's still valuable, right?
Yeah.
It's still, it lasted, and that's very, very rare.
And it's so rare, the virality, right? This is pre-internet, guys, just to give some perspective to all you young kids in the crowd who
Well,
probably...
no, there was internet.
Yeah,
Come on.
well, I mean, this is there was no online, social media, right?
No,
where-
no social media.
But they created, and I don't know how you did it, if you want to tell us a little bit of the secret, they created virality where my wife and I, who we bonded over this movie, we were so scared together.
Yikes.
Literally went home, we're terrified. But you created...
I don't know what kind of bond you guys got. I don't
You
want to know.
created virality, pre-social media. How did you tap it? Was that intentional, or it was kind of just it happened magically? Tell us about it.
It was both. Again, I'm looking at the world now compared to then, and what's going on now is very, very different, and yet humans are the same. So ours, and I don't want to take up too much time here, but because there's a lot of us, and they have really cool things to say. But at the time, there was social media, but it was called bulletin boards. And it's what's going on. Twitter's a freaking bulletin board, right? I mean, no joke. You just sit there and scroll through shit. That's what happens. So we were posting to each other, because we were all living in different places, on this bulletin board. And some people happened upon it. And we're like, what the hell is going on here? 3 kids dead, blah, 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 right? And so we started going, whoa, quick. Oh, let's play that. Let's go with it, right? We were informing each other. And again, that's what social media is. We were informing each other. And then suddenly we realized, tell a story with it, right? And that's what we started to do, was tell a story with it. And that just blew up. And blowing up then, a story. So I'm driving to Sundance, which is where we were going to go. I lived in LA. I'm driving to Sundance. That morning, there's a radio show on, and it was Kevin and Bean or Mark and Brian or one of those shows. You guys know what radio is? You've heard of radio?
Yeah.
And they're talking about the Blair Witch Project on the way there. And they were like, there's, I forget now, but it was they got 60,000 hits. And I'm going, 60,000? Back then, that was phenomenal, right? How many people were online? So by the time I got from LA to Sundance, it was up to 150,000. And that's right. That's what we're all trying to do. And that's what sharing, giving, telling a story. That's really what it comes down to. We all want a story. So we told a crazy story and told people it was true, because back then you could tell people everything was true.
People believed everything. The propaganda was
Well,
real
the
back
internet
then.
was different. The internet was information, and it's still information, but now it's misinformation. So now where are we in that, right? And that's kind of what this is all about.
Oh, I just 100% agree. I think Bitcoin specifically and ordinals is the first time in history everyone in the world in real time, if they can access it, has access to everyone's perspective with no filter. And yeah, I just think that's one of the most important things about Bitcoin.
Well, Will, tell us about, so you're building a media brand. Tell us how you're looking at this. I mean, in the age of clickbait media, right? How do you get attention, maintain attention? How are you guys looking at it from a business perspective while not turning into basically what we see almost every media company become, which is basically, how do I get clicks? And then they lean into this, just fake media, basically. How do you avoid that?
Yeah, no, our business model is just lying so that we get money.
Solid
It's
strategy.
a very solid strategy. No, so I like the perspective you guys are bringing to stage, because you're talking about different ways of monetizing artwork or monetizing music, and that's at the heart of media, right? We're creating things that have a shelf life of about 2 seconds. And so as a media house, we're putting out tons of different content, but we realize that content maybe can last a week. We can monetize it for a week, and then it has to go out the door, and nobody really uses it again, and no one's willing to pay for that media again. So my job as co-founder and kind of BD person is how do I take one podcast and make sure it has a shelf life for a week, get someone to pay for it, and then we move on to the next thing. And so what we're looking at on across all the things we do, from podcasting to film to events to newsletters, is how can we create a split for us managing the content, and then also for our content creators to make a living off this. And we have one really successful show that we launched beginning of this year called The Gort Show. It's all things Bitcoin, and then kind of like a skeptic view on like ETH, Solana, all that kind of stuff. We call it like an exploration of Blockspace with like a little bit of a skepticism of crypto Twitter. And the model we came up with this content creator is just like a revenue share, and then we kind of work on the IP together, and we can get this show off the ground by working together. He does the best of what he does, I do the best of what I do, and we can work together on that. And then from a decentralization perspective, like you kind of have that first layer by me being the media house and him being his own content creator that controls his own future. And then from the next perspective is like, what kind of rails are we using? And so far we're just using like the Spotify, Apple kind of thing. But I think that does matter in the sense that you do have that legacy web 1.0. You might be able to label this better, but like an RSS feed or a newsletter. And it's important to be able to control your email list, control who your individual subscriber is, and go from there. Next step is
with your email list, like for Web3 natives, if we're faced with an email list, we're out, right?
Yeah.
Very much because part of it is like are you focusing generally on like, okay, Ordinal's Web3 natives, or you're just trying to bridge that gap between the two?
Yeah, I think we're trying to bridge the gap in the sense like everyone who is having these conversations is using email, RSS for whatever. And then there's a few outliers who are using these new tools, and we want to move more towards those. So for one of our other shows called The Mining Pod, we do use Fountain, which is like a Bitcoin first podcasting app. And like we've been on that for years now, and it's been great for us. You can get tipped of Satoshis, all those kind of things. I think for our model, we're like, we want to control who our listener or user is, and then be able to protect their information that way, as opposed to give it to Twitter or give it to Facebook, give it to someone else. And in that sense, I see like a blending of like the old model where me, the media house, controls the email. I'm not giving it to like one of these big tech corporations, but then I'm also enabling new things like tipping in Bitcoin or using like a Bitcoin address to communicate with them, those sort of things. So I'm looking forward to a world where those things like merge even more.
Yeah, it's interesting. So much of it is the previous panel, where Udi's talking about shit posting and stuff like that. And I think so much of it, everybody in this room is fortunate, is we caught the right wave. Like Ordinals was a wave that worked. So many of these waves don't work, right? So being in the kind of like right place, right time is like critical. I'd say there are tons of great content creators or whatever who are in the wrong place at the wrong time, and just you don't get seen, right? But Violetta, I'm thinking of you, like when you leaned into Ordinals, obviously, I don't know if you did it intentionally or just like, just something told you to do it, but why lean into Ordinals? Was it that intention, like, oh, well, this is a wave that these are collectors, right? People have money, right? Which is also good. Like, what were you thinking when you decided, oh, I'll lean into Ordinals here?
Yeah, honestly, I'm kind of on a mission of trying to reestablish the perceived value of music. We don't really have a way of truly owning a piece of music. And even with NFTs, NFTs, like Jen was mentioning, they're kind of tokens that give you access to certain things, right? But when you own a piece of Bitcoin, you truly own it, especially if there's any kind of media on top of it. You really own that thing. And, each Satoshi is a one of one. And I want to bring music to that point where it's seen almost the same way as like this beautiful painting behind us that's sitting on an ordinal, right? On a Satoshi. So that was what attracted me to it. It got me closer to my ultimate goal of potentially one day seeing music in museums, right? Because it's laying on one of the most valuable canvases that we have available.
And I think there's definitely a big resurgence in the music NFT conversation last week.
Wait, I thought they were dead. No?
What is a music NFT? It does not exist, right? And I think like Violetta is a really good example of an artist who leaned into a technology where she saw solutions to problems she was experiencing as an artist in this technology. But like, there's not a formula, right? The inscriptions she's doing are no different than how anyone else is inscribing. But the art is different because she made it and it's her art and it happens to be music, right? And I think that there's a lot of people that come in here and it's, sorry, the fake media that just gives all these headlines about NFTs, about things that aren't possible, royalties forever, like all these things that aren't true. But when we focus on exactly what this technology is and don't try and recreate a broken system, I think we've seen over and over in social media in so many places that, once you start monetizing all the content, it doesn't work because the content is paid for. So it's not real anymore, right? So like everything with the music industry and streaming, all of these numbers, it's not sustainable. But you also can't just recreate it. You have to find your own path. And I think Violetta's done an amazing job of that.
I think it's on. I would love to follow up on that because you're so right. The system is not just broken. It's been broken for a long time. It's fucked. And you do not want to recreate this. And we keep trying. And you're surrounded by the degens and the greedy, and they just want to keep it going because that's their system. Don't.
It's
create
not even
a
their
new
system.
system.
They've never worked in it, right? So they're just seeing this stuff. We've all been in Hollywood. It doesn't work. So anyone who's saying they're doing that
deep
stuff,
in Hollywood, and let me tell you right now,
Yeah.
it is broken.
It's
We've
broken.
known it for a long time. And so we're here. I mean, I'm actually here because we're creating new ways for people to do it, but not different pathways. There is no pathway. Have options. So we're creating a new studio system, but it's not. We got to have a new word because it's not a new studio system.
it's decentralization. That's the beauty of decentralization.
It's
It's
no
choice.
one knows what that is, and they don't know how to, I love the word.
I have
live by
tutorials.
it.
I'll teach everyone, guys. Decentralization means there's not one owner, okay? So if we're going to simplify it, it's choice.
I have a moment to take this right now. You are going to. It's like Superman here, but a little slower. Sorry.
Yes. But think of
Enlighten me how to get there, right? Right? That's our job.
that's a Sci4 question
Look-
because I don't know how to get
And
fully
the other thing I'll
decentralized.
say is like here, Blair Witch is a great example. You could never do it again. Everyone always asks me how to do it. You can never do it again. Happened at a moment in time, happened when things converged. We did a thing that no one else could do again. You did a thing that no one could repeat. You're doing a thing no one can repeat. They're going to want to, but they have to think, follow me through the woods. Good luck. Right?
It's like this. We all recognize we need a new system. We have ideas about how to get there, but this requires a tremendous amount of trial, error, and building. And
But that's kind of what I'm saying is the system is all of us trying new
that's
things.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Let's try new things. I think it was perfectly, if everybody saw the Coinbase tweet last week where they were they had a beautiful video. They're really making great content. Their video, man, if you could just lay the system on the world right now, it'd be amazing. It was like creators, you create a song and that song goes viral and people are remixing it and the tokens are funneling to you and this is an amazing thing. And we all say, wow, that's amazing. And literally right underneath it, an artist creator was like, you stole my content last year when you did an NFT drop, right? So yes, the idea is there, but the implementation is completely broken, right? But that's what we're building.
And I think something really important too is, anyone that's had success in virality, right? This is not a new concept here. But understanding the technology, the tools, the options, and understanding the space, the community, how people talk, how people understand content, right? Whatever you're trying to do, you'll be able to recognize the right time to activate if you're educated about what's going on.
Yeah, I think to the people in the room, I'm sure we have some artists, but I'm sure I know because I'm looking at you, we got a bunch of nerd builders here too.
But those are artists.
Exactly.
And that's what we got to remember.
The
We're all
nerd builders
creating.
have to work and create the things that the artists then use. And it's so critical that happens. And
The builders run this space.
it's
And
true.
artists have always, since the beginning of the first dude who drew on a cave, he got screwed. No one tipped him, no one paid him, right? So we've always got to be figuring out and it's not about making money. If truly at the end of the day, if you just tell your story, if you create, it will flow. But there are ways to find paths to, eventually that dude was drawing in everybody's cave, right? and probably getting tons of, woolly mammoth meat.
So, Will, are you just independently rich running a media company down there? Is that the idea? Like, I think almost
Independently
in a way,
poor. Trust me.
it's almost in a way that's what you need for a media brand, is that you need somehow to have money where you can just keep on without having to do this clickbait media. I mean, is that like, how are you guys thinking about that? Because it's a tough one.
Yeah, definitely mostly bootstrapped. From what I've seen, like it's sort of a mix, right? The days, so I'm more of like a media junkie in the terms of like traditional journalism. And the days of like New York Times, WAPO, like you're totally editorial independent. I think the veil's been lifted like time and time again, and people don't trust that anymore, which is why you're seeing the rise of like citizen journalism on Twitter, or just like independent content creators who are like linking to chains, things like that. I think for like a media house like Blockspace, what we're trying to think about is like voices, so second day voices. Because people are going to be tweeting breaking news all the time, and people are going to deny it. They're not going to believe it. The sourcing on it's going to be terrible. It's going to be so hard to authenticate it. But what we do have with these different ways of monetizing media is the second day voice. And that's going to matter more and more and more. Like as a terms of creators, that's what we want to focus on. We want to have people who can take something that is a news article or take something that has happened and put a spin on that, put a difference on that, and then blast it out across all these different channels. Now, the thing that I'm mostly interested in is very close to their hearts as well, is like the censorship part, right? Like if we're going to put it out there, how can we put it out there that it has longevity and is sustained? And the second part about that is how do I monetize that for the future so that content creator can keep doing it? I want them to be able to be doing it in 5 years. Like, you don't become better because like there's like this pressure on you that you can't do it the next day because you don't have money. No, like you become better because like you have that patronage that allows you to continue being better at your craft. So for me and at Blockspace, like we're really focused on that second day voice, whatever that be, whatever that medium is, and then using like these new tools and rails to be able to like protect the content we're putting out and monetize it correctly.
Anything from Hollywood as far as like ways people are looking at using blockchains to either pass down revenue or anything, or they're just completely oblivious to it? Anything?
Are you asking me or him?
You.
They don't even know what
That's what I
blockchain
figured.
is.
That's not
and
true.
believe me, I'm deep in, and we have
I
meetings
worked
at
with
high
all
levels.
the agencies.
They
on,
have no clue.
they don't know how
talk
it works, but
say
they know it
blockchain.
exists. They
Thank
call
you.
me.
Oh no, they know it exists.
Yeah, they know it exists, and they like the money that comes from it, but they are not actively learning. So
No, they are
I
not.
think that's something, right, to be wary of is people coming into this space who aren't here every single day. We don't need validation from these big companies. We're here doing it. The creators that are here every day, I think, are the ones.
Can I just add, you don't want to even let them in anyway. They're bad people. Don't let them in. So Hollywood,
people.
yes, they're going to figure it out, and we're all going to be really sad because they figured it out and screwed it up again.
I actually do send them misinformation sometimes, so.
I think that's a good way to wrap. I think people are generally good. I
do too.
I think systems the incentives align to force bad behavior, and I think we have the opportunity to try and do really interesting new things. And it's important to look at small creators who lead the charge in and do things successfully, like build communities, like actually are successful in their projects and art. And but building this future not only requires artists, it requires the devs who are also artists to build this future together. I appreciate you all for your time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Also, if you are coming to Ord House, make sure you RSVP to all of the links, please.